are having the press conference this afternoon. There's a couple of items that we're going to discuss. And the main item that we want to review is a water compliance issue that the city is dealing with right now. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to announce through a press conference what we were doing and why we were doing it, and answer any questions that there might be, because under the state regulations, the city is required to issue a public notice, and there will be a notice that will be issued that will be published in the paper, and a notice that will be included in the water bills. And so I didn't want people just to read in the paper. I didn't want them just to look at a notice in the water bill and have questions about what may have happened. I wanted to use this opportunity to be able to explain what happened. And I'm going to ask Russell Buckels. Is it Russell? Are you the one that's going to handle this? We're going to ask Russell to come up here and explain what we're dealing with. But basically, I'll introduce it this way and say that the city had a water system violation during a bacteriological testing that is required under state regulations. The city routinely tests its water system, and we do it basically on a weekly basis. We take about 20 samples per week, 80 samples per month. This is for routine compliance monitoring. It's something we do all the time to make sure that our water system is safe. These results are reported to the Department of Health and Hospitals. And during the weekly bacteriological testing that took place during the week of May 18th, 10 of the 20 samples tested positive for total coliform bacteria. And we immediately retested the water system as we're required to do, took repeated samples at each site, each testing site, as well as samples both upstream and downstream from those sites. Took a total of 30 samples, reanalyzed all of those samples, and they all came up negative for any type of coliform bacteria. In addition, we also noted that chlorine levels were adequate in all original samples and in the repeat samples. So that is the incident that occurred. And as I mentioned, under state regulations, we're required to issue a written notice, publish it in the paper, and also include it in the water bill. But I wanted to, again, to take this opportunity to explain it. So Russell, why don't you come forward and kind of go through this.
Okay, the mayor explained the type of violation that we had. We suspect, although we can't not determine exactly what happened and why we had the positive samples, we suspect there was some type of contamination, either during the sampling out in the field or back in the lab when samples were run and analyzed. We'll continue to monitor all our sampling and procedures and equipment used to sample the bacteriological samples within the system and take care of that end. The citizens don't need to boil their water. They don't need to have any other concerns or take any other corrective actions. If they do have concerns, they can consult their doctor, and there'll be a number for the Safe Drinking Water Act hotline in the notice that's issued to each of the customers and in the paper. It was not an emergency. If it had been, we would have contacted our citizens immediately. Coliforms in themselves are not normally harmful. They're present in the environment all over. They're used as an indicator that other harmful bacteria may be present in this water system. So since coliforms were found in more samples than allowed, we were out of compliance when we had to do this public announcement. If coliforms are there, they're normally a sign of a problem in the treatment or distribution end. Whenever we detect coliforms, we immediately do follow-up testing to make sure other bacteria of greater concern, such as E. coli, aren't present. In none of these samples or in any of the repeat samples, no E. coli or any of those other bacteria were present. However, from time to time, we do find coliform bacteria in our water. That is not out of the ordinary. What was out of the ordinary is the number of samples we found positive. We will be publishing a notice, as the mayor said, in the Lake Charles American Press, and sending out a public notice to each and every one of our customers by mail.
questions? Cover it? Is that okay?
That's okay.
All right. Okay. The one thing that we didn't mention, I guess, is that in a normal testing period, under the regulations, you're allowed up to 4 samples, and as long as it doesn't exceed 4 samples, you're considered to be in compliance. In this case, we had 10 samples, so we were over the level of 4, and that's why it triggered this reporting process, and that's why we're having to do that. But we, again, wanted to take this opportunity to just be able to answer questions and let everybody know, so that it's not a surprise and people don't think that we were trying to avoid the issue. We want to deal with the issue to make sure everybody understands that the water system is safe. One of the things I think is important to note is that we did retest. All of the samples came back negative, and when all the samples come back negative, that's why, as Russell indicated, that's why you suspect that there might have been something in that sampling process, because not only did we retest, but we have continued to test, and we haven't noted any problem since then. So anyway, that's why we're doing what we're doing, and we want to make sure that everybody is aware of the situation.